Hey, on this episode, we have Glenn Davis from Benchmark Lending in Flemington, New Jersey. I've known Glenn for 30, 40 years maybe, since the 80s, which made the podcast a lot of fun. Glenn is a great guy. I always loved how he puts himself out there on social media, and he has a quote. It's not his, I don't believe, but he said it a few times that really resonated with me. You have to do something every day that you suck at, kind of like this podcast that I do often. However, I always appreciated how he put himself out there, how he's consistent with his content and the message that he puts out. And so we talk a little bit about life and business and where the business is going, and just really had a great chit chat. So without further ado, let's meet Glenn.
Welcome to the BrandTastic podcast with your host, Robert Wilson. Hello, everybody. We have Glenn Davis here today from Benchmark Lending in Flemington, New Jersey. I've known Glenn most of my life, and
it's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. We were talking before, and the last time I saw you, it was right before the Philadelphia
Marathon.
Yeah, that was about 30 pounds ago.
I'll go 35, but you got 50. You got.
I'll never forget that day. That was my first marathon, and I think you were an avid runner at the time.
Yeah, that was I think my second or third Philly marathon, but I was running with someone who had not run the Philly marathon. So.
Oh wow, yeah.
Cool.
Said I remember you saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm out of shape, all this garbage," and all of a sudden you beat me by like an hour and a half.
I had a moped, I think, for a couple miles.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do at Benchmark?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been in the mortgage business, for lack of a better term, for just about 25 years.
Nice.
So we enjoy helping families, kind of live the American dream and find the home that they're looking for, or at least find this either the home or the step-up home, right? So before you get to the perfect home, you got to sometimes sacrifice a little bit. But we've been doing that. I believe has someplace just north or just south of about 5,000 different clients that we've helped over the last 25 years.
Oh, wow. Nice. And how much has this industry changed since you started? Has it changed a lot or not really?
The market has changed. I don't think it's necessarily the clients have changed, but the way the clients are finding homes and the tools that the clients have, as well as, the loan officer in the industry. Tech has become a huge part of buying a home and selling a home and of paying a mortgage, right? You've got your different platforms, whether it's Zillow or Realtor.com.
Yeah.
It all plays into that world of finding the perfect home.
It's funny. I never thought about this in your industry, but the last time I went car shopping, the salesperson was like, yeah, people come in with all the information. They know more about the car than I do. I mean, people are more informative now.
Absolutely. And I think that benefits all of us. Right?
Sure.
I mean, to some point, we still have the client that has the Uncle Louie who knows everything about everything and really knows nothing about nothing.
Right. Yeah.
You have to deal with.
Yeah.
I think an educated client is certainly a lot easier to work with.
And that uncle's example you gave, I think they become more fun as you get, you learn how to handle those a little bit better.
Absolutely.
And you just learn to listen rather than
battle. It's not worth it most of the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, the industry, I believe what you're going to see in this industry, as well as a lot of other industries, is I think you're going to see a split, right? You're going to have a Y. You're going to have a part of the industry that's going to want to go towards technology and maybe lose a little bit of that personal touch, belly button to belly button. Mm-hmm. And I believe you're going to have a portion of the industry that's going to probably lean more in towards that belly button to belly button and that interpersonal relationship.
Right.
We're going in that direction.
Yeah.
I still think, regardless of how much technology we have, you still need to have somebody to call. You still need that one.
Oh, yeah, you're always going to need that.
You need that. I always like to tell people when they're kind of stressed out, and a lot of times it's not necessarily stress that's coming from the transaction, it's stress of coming from our own two ears, right? We're humans, so we always think the worst case scenario. But I'm like, listen, if you're at that point where you're going to jump off the bridge, call me.
Right, yeah.
I'll walk you back from the ledge.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, in the 25 years of doing this, no one's ever ended up in my practice in a house that they were like, oh my God, I hate this house. I want to move.
Oh, that would be awful. Yeah.
It really would.
Oh God. Yeah.
We have the folks who put out, 5, 10, especially in this market with the limited inventory. They're out looking at 5, 10, 15 homes and they, oh my God, they're so discouraged. But again, we've never had someone come back and say, oh, we got this house, but we wish we got the other one. It's never, ever, ever been that way.
Yeah.
We say, thank God we didn't get the last 3 or 4 houses. Thank God we got this house because we love this house.
Yeah, I think when you find the right client and the client finds the right professional, that there's a certain amount of trust where
absolutely,
and that's a big thing. How do you go about that? Like one thing I love about you, how you put yourself out there on social media, because, just because people do it consistently doesn't mean they love doing it, or doesn't mean it comes natural to them all the time. But one thing I look forward to your Tuesday ones. You start, how long you been doing that for? Have you been doing that?
Not long.
No, right? So
long.
I caught it from the beginning.
It's, there was a great quote, I mentioned this earlier today, but every day you should be brave enough to do something that you suck at.
I do that every day.
I do it every day, right? So social media was something that we kind of stuck our toe in, and I think a lot of people do that.
Sure.
And you get a little discouraged, especially if, not to bring age into it, but in my age bracket, we're kind of on the other side of the bell curve.
Sure.
Growing up with technology. So it can be scary, right? Mm-hmm. It can be intimidating, but I love the belief that if you're always falling forward and you're always just trying something new, that eventually something's got to click and it's got to work. And
yeah.
That's what you see now on my social media. It's just starting to kind of, I think, click and work.
Yeah. And it's marketing's all about the right message to the right person at the right time, and the last one's the most important, the right time. And the only way you're going to nail them or get is if you're consistent, right? But I'm an advocate for our generation of technology, because I work with a lot of companies that have an internal marketing person once in a while, and a lot of times they're on the young side, 23, 24, 25, and I think a lot of companies, they'll admit this, they make a mistake. They hire a young marketing person because they're young and they get social media, but they get how to take selfies and they get how to post, but they don't understand the messaging behind marketing. Is like, what message are you putting out? Because your message is your brand, and I think our generation kind of understands that a lot more.
And again, not to bring generations into it, but
no.
I think we're probably a little bit more personable,
sure,
for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Than maybe some of the other generations that are have grown up with technology. It's I think a little warmer.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, sure. And I think the older you get, the more confident you get with things.
Yeah,
you kind of like, hey, everything's not going to be perfect, and it's fine.
More confidence, or you just don't care. Right?
You don't care. Right? So, you care just enough. You care, but not that much. Yeah.
We have a saying in our office that, if something goes wrong or something happens to fall to the wayside or falls through the cracks, and listen, we're human, it happens. But my response to that all the time is, it kind of sucks to be human. Yeah.
We
all make mistakes.
Sure.
That's the reality. So,
yeah, I know.
If you make a mistake, it's how to pick up the ball afterwards.
Yeah, and I think the older you get, the less you care what people think, and it's very liberating, and it's a lot of fun. I tell you, like
definitely free.
Like 20 years ago, some of the videos I do, I was like, I don't want my friends to see this; they're gonna bust my chops. And now it's like, what are you doing? I forgot who it was. It's a quote. I'm sure you probably heard it, but it was like, nobody above you who's more successful will make fun of you. It's always the people below you.
Absolutely.
It's always the insecure people. And, you learn a lot about yourself. I learned to have a lisp. I never knew I had great friends. They never made fun of me, when I was younger. Like, I was like, I sound like that, man. It's terrible. But I always like that about you. You always kind of put yourself out there, do you see the return on that? Like, how do you start?
I do. And I haven't been able to necessarily, listen, I can go back to the analytics of Google and Facebook. And see all, but I think a lot more of that has to do with, the conversations that you and I are having, or the conversation. I have similar conversations with people in the marketplace, or even clients.
Sure.
Let's kind of flip this, right? So how do you stay in touch with clients after you work with them, right? So we do a lot with social media, and that we follow.
Right.
We see that someone had a baby, if we see that someone's gotten engaged, if we see that their pet died, right? So that's part of what I do in my practice. I've got you open my left-hand drawer, I've got nothing but cards for, births, deaths, the anniversaries. So the flip side of social media is it allows us to actually stay connected with our clients.
Yeah. And the other thing you do a really good job with, and I think they kind of go hand in hand. It seems like you're involved in the community a lot. It's never as much as you would like to, because we're all busy, but I see you and you're involved. You're getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, we do a lot with a couple different foundations. One is MAGIC Foundation in Pennsylvania. But surprisingly enough, that Bucks County, which is probably one of the more wealthier counties in Pennsylvania, there's about 400 kids below the age of 10 that leave school on Friday and don't have a meal until the following Monday.
That's yeah. I learned a lot about that during the pandemic when the schools were shut. Kids were they wanted to reopen them in some cities so the kids can eat.
Yeah. So we do a lot with them. I would actually like to do more with them. We that's always part of my goals, to kind of continue to give. We do a lot with the food banks. I just think it's the right thing to do, right?
Sure.
If the community is supporting you, you've got to be able to support it.
And it's what you get out of it personally. Anytime you volunteer, it's especially when it's locally, you can see the impact that it has. But it's needed as great as things are for a lot of people. A lot of people are struggling, and I don't know how you feel, but when you're doing your own thing and you're responsible for your own income in most aspects, I think you get humbled and you realize that it could happen to you at any time.
Absolutely. Having to kill what you eat is not always the easiest thing to do, right?
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. But it's gratifying. It's, again, if the community is supporting you, you definitely have to support your community.
And it's good energy. I think the people who you come across to helps you with your business, not directly, just because of the good energy. And back to Benchmark a little bit. Now, are you're licensed in multiple states?
I am licensed in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, and Florida.
Oh, nice.
We do, primarily our business is New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and believe it or not, it's drifting more and more towards Florida as we have people relocate.
Transitioning. So do you find a percentage of your clients are preparing for that move, meaning they're buying a house there now or something for get it settled and future? Yeah. I was talking to somebody who was mentioning that, and but I noticed that a lot of realtors also have their license in New Jersey and Florida specifically, because I guess you have that big wave of baby boomers now, right? Is that?
Well, that's happening. So you have people moving not only to Florida, but you've got, they call them halfways, right? So they're either going to South Carolina or North Carolina.
Oh, really?
They're not going all the way to Florida. They're called halfways. But yeah, that wave is coming through, and that's the movement south that I think you're seeing, and you're going to continue to see probably for the next quick few years.
What's their why don't they want to go all the way to Florida? Is it because they don't like the state, or?
I'll be personal and professional. Personally, I don't think I would ever move to Florida, not because I don't like Florida, but this is going to sound crazy, but any place that I can't take my dog to go swimming in a lake, it's not a place that I want to live, right?
Yeah, that's pretty freaky.
That's my personal thing. It's nothing against Florida. But I also like the seasons, right? So not everyone wants.
Right, yeah.
And 12 years out of the month. I love, my favorite months are spring and fall.
Yeah, Florida can be brutal. Yeah. I mean, you walk out. I remember we went to Disney in May. It was like the worst week of my life. It was just so hot. But no place to. The only good thing is everything's air conditioned. If you're not outside, at least everything is.
But I think that's a big reason for, I think, that what I call halfways. I think there's still people that just love the Four Seasons or don't want to necessarily be remember the old. It's the winters we used to have, 1979, when snow was in our house. We haven't had those, although I believe we will at some point. But I think people still just like the climate.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's nice. I even like this time of year because it's getting warmer. I'm getting pumped up. Yeah, my mood changes, and I don't mind being down a little bit for a couple months. It's almost like a regrouping, and then
As soon as we get the smell of the first.
oh man, it's great. Yeah, it's great when you don't have allergies. My poor son.
Yeah, I have that as well.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about, we chatted a little bit before about your partnerships. I found that really interesting. A lot of fun how you partner with other realtors and
See, I mean, I think unlike a lot of lenders, I think people believe our goal is essentially we do a loan for you, we pat it on the back, and we send you on the way.
Right.
I don't see what I do as being that way at all. I think unlike a lot of lenders, our job is to not only, from a client standpoint, manage the debt that we're putting you into, because, quite frankly, it's the most debt most people will ever be put into, right? Mm-hmm. Not only managing it for the short term, but also for the long term. So we do client reviews every year. We do a financial review every 6 months, and we do all that stuff. But going back to the partners on the same kind of plane as that, most people think I'm just out to meet with a realtor and get their business. And we've got about 10 or 12 folks that we work with pretty intimately, in that we're not out to get the business, we're out to help them grow their business.
right.
So my job is to help them grow the business, find out what's going on in their business, where they need improvement. What I like to say, what's the knot in the rope? What's that kink that's, maybe kind of hitting you in the side or keeping you up at night? And let's try to work on that and make it better. In doing that, it builds a relationship. And in doing that, not only are we building their business, but then we start to build mine.
Right.
I think in giving, you get.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think sometimes we try to reinvent the wheel too much and trying to get leads. And sometimes it's just the old school way of reaching out to people. But you kind of have to do a little bit of everything now. But that one-on-one referral, there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
Yeah.
I mean, when I receive a referral, depending on who it's coming from, I can tell you my chances of getting it are X or Y.
Sure. Yeah.
It's that simple. And it leads back to that why I was talking about before, the tech side and the personal side. I still believe through the next, I'm hoping through my career, it's going to be belly button to belly button. It's going to be that
absolutely
somebody answering the phone. You're discussing people don't answer their phone. Someone doesn't answer the phone in my office. I'm a little raving lunatic. Like, why is somebody answering the phone? No, it's ever going to voicemail. That's just, I think you need to be there. And that's this thing. It's as easy as that is. That's the distinguishing part between a successful business, or a piece of it, the recipe for a successful business or practice, compared to one that is.
Yeah, I know it. If you're a contractor, the phone is more important than your hammer. And
hands down, that's probably the most true thing we've talked about here. And my wife and I are in the process of possibly building a house, and we called 6 different builders, and we had one respond.
Unbelievable, right? So here's the thing on my end. I could do everything I can to get you leads, but if you're not responding to people or answering your phone, there are companies where when I call them, and I don't think they're avoiding my call because they're calling me to call them back sometime, they're not answering their phone. So what if I was a lead? Like, they're just going to somebody else. Like, no,
they're scrolling down Google to the next,
like literally that easy. So it's there are some people say, hey, how about we do this? I'll pay you on performance base. I get this much work, I'll give you a percentage. It's like, I can't help you if you don't answer your phone. And most people don't. And it's great for guys like us who, my phone's in my back pocket right now. I'll know it's ringing at least, and make sure I check. Like, it's always, the watch is always on, it vibrates when it's on, and it's the
basics, right?
Yeah.
Many of us, we get so caught up, I think, sometimes in technology and what other people are doing in our industry, that we kind of lose sight of. It's really just the basics. Yeah, it's answering the phone. It's doing the simple things that you need to do to become successful.
And you go back to the belly to belly. I mean, that's exactly why I started a podcast, just to get people in here, to meet them, and just to be on top of people's mind. Not selling them anything, just.
Great idea.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. I see a podcast in your future.
Very possible.
Yeah. Imagine that, just interviewing realtors. That would be a good.
Yeah, that would be
people in the industry. Yeah. I do work for a commercial landscaping company. I was like, you guys should have a podcast and interview property managers. You know what I mean? Just property managers, some of your clients, and when a potential client or somebody that's not your client has a big project going on, they have a place, because people are looking for clips for social media. And I think a lot of savvy people, and I think you're one of them, realize that if you go on a podcast, even if they don't have a big audience, there's still a lot of value in it.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge value.
Yeah.
That goes back to, doing something every day that you suck at, right?
Right.
But, regardless of the, I shouldn't say regardless of the exposure, but any exposure is good exposure in this environment. Positive exposure.
Sure.
I was watching a Netflix. I love basketball, right? So I think last night they had the Fab Five.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a fun one. I got to revisit that.
It's all about basics.
Yeah.
It's all about basics, right? So I constantly remind myself of that you've got to, continue to do the little things that got you to where you are. You need to continue to do those and build on it from there.
Yeah. And also something that's pretty cool that you're doing. When I first saw it, I was like, wow, holy crap, man. Lenny's like, I got to talk to this guy. Tell us about the show.
Yeah, American Dream TV was something that kind of came in front of me during the COVID era, right?
Right.
Everybody was locked down, and at the time, the market was incredibly hot, rates were incredibly low, and it was, I hate to say like fishing in a barrel, but it was like fishing in a barrel. We just didn't have time to do anything like that because there was just so much business. Coming out of that era, we started to see things slow down a little bit. We had the time to look back and kind of educated myself on it a little bit more. And going back to having exposure, I just found it to be a really unique way of giving not only exposure to myself, but to people that I respect.
Sure.
And want to help grow their business.
Right.
So it's been incredibly successful. We've got our third episode coming out next month. I think it's on the 17th or the 16th. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
What is it like seeing you on the screen like that?
It's not unlike Johnny Depp, who said he never watches himself, never watches his movies. I watch all of them about 15 times, and I point out every possible thing that I did wrong. So that's human instinct. Right?
Oh God, yeah. That's talking about putting yourself out there.
Exactly. But it's giving great exposure to my referral partners. It's forced me to grow, right? Mm-hmm. It's given me a lot more confidence, and from a business perspective, it's my name's out there. It's just out there more and more. So that's the whole goal.
You have that quote, which I like, do something every day that you suck at. But how did you get there? Do you do any like personal growth, reading stuff? Like that's not, it's not an easy thing
it isn't
to do. So
I probably have about 100 personal self-help books in my office.
Yeah, that's what most of these are. You're probably right.
Whether you read the whole book or you get halfway through it, I'm a big believer in, like, when I was driving here, when I drive, I try not to listen to the news or.
Right. Yeah. Thank God.
I put on Blink.
Okay.
Yeah, Blink. It just kind of.
The book?
No, it's an app that.
Oh, okay.
It just gives you the highlights from it.
Okay.
So you can do a 300-page book in about 45 minutes.
Oh, okay. I got to look into that. I read the Malcolm Gladwell book called Blink. That's what I.
One of my favorite ones.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
It's just a matter of having the confidence to realize, I think somewhere along the line, and I can't really pinpoint exactly when, but regardless of who you are or how much you make or what your last name is or how many degrees you have hanging on the wall, we're all screwed up, man.
Yeah.
We're perfect the day we're born, we're perfect the day we died, and we're all a hot freaking mess, in the middle of it.
Yeah, I like to tell people that I'm not broke, I'm a little bent.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
We all are.
Yeah.
We all are. And I think once you kind of really visualize that and you live it and you breathe it, there's nothing you're going to do that's going to make yourself feel.
Oh no, yeah. And it comes with education.
Yeah.
Through reading and getting older too.
Education and confidence.
I love being older. I would not want to be 35 years old again. I just love it.
I wouldn't want to be in my teens right now.
No, God, no! What a nightmare that would be. I would be a disaster. Yeah,
be a disaster.
But
cameras. That's
yeah. The one thing I always got from reading was you read a lot and you're hearing the same crap all the time. Good crap. Like you're hearing the same stuff all the time. It's like, all right, it's time to make a change.
It is.
It's time to take it seriously.
I think like most people who read, avid readers, or even if you're not an avid reader and you pick up a book, let's say read for a month or two, and you go back to the same book and you read the same, sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4 times to read it before you actually hear it.
Yeah.
So
I don't know if you feel the same way, but like there's some people online that I'll see like an Instagram reel, like, oh, I like that, like Gary Vee or somebody. But as a whole, the self-help gurus, I don't respond to that well. I respond to reading.
Yeah, I don't either. I think, as whether this is true or not true, I think it's true. As economic times become more difficult, I think you see more and more people out there trying to sell stuff on the basis of, I can help you, or I can improve your game, or I can make you more money. And that's more of a turnoff to me than anything.
Yeah, that's most of my LinkedIn requests people getting from me. It's always how people, and they're like 23 years old, which is fine. Yeah. But they're going to tell me how to, how to break through barriers. It's like, pay off your student loans first and show you how to break.
Good point. Yeah, I was not a huge reader in school. I don't know.
Me either. Are you more introverted? I
think my younger days were more introverted.
Yeah, me too.
And I still am.
No, me too. Yeah. And I think that the reader mentality is kind of...
Give me a Saturday or Sunday alone with no one around me. I'm pretty good.
Yeah. Well, that's why I got this office. Yeah. I come here. It's like,
so
YouTube video, you're a YouTube video guy, will learn. Yeah. We're on the same page.
I signed up for YouTube TV about 2 months ago. I love it.
Oh, me too. Yeah. It's great.
It's fun to throw yourself out there and see what happens. Yeah. It really is. And I don't think there's a diagram somewhere or a picture somewhere, and it's a small circle that says your comfort zone, and there's a large circle and it says, where amazing things happen. Right. So I always like to go to where the amazing things happen, and
all the good fruits on the skinny branches.
Exactly. It's a fun place to live.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your team. What do you look for when you're trying to add people onto your staff?
That's like $1 million question. I realize that. We have, let's talk about my staff first of all. So Kim is my underwriter. She's been with me about 10 years. Jamie's my processor, and we have Christina, who's what we call production assistant. Both have been in the industry. Jamie's been in for a long time. Christina's fairly new. But in this industry, you've got to be able to be flexible and be able to, I hate to say multitask, because I don't believe multitasking is a good way to conduct business. I think it's a way to really,
I agree,
productive. But you've got to be able to kind of pivot on a dime for when things are maybe not going in the right direction. And you need to be a people person, right? So, we've had people in the past that have worked with us, and I had one individual in particular who wasn't with us long, but I had him sit across the desk from me for about 3 or 4 days, and he got done. He goes, you should probably have been a doctor, because I think you could tell someone that they were going to die and they would still be happy. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, right? I think it has more to do with your ability to communicate with people.
Sure.
My belief is, most of us, if not all of us, like to have the truth, right? And they don't want to be surprised, right? So if we can give them the truth in a compassionate way, and not surprise them, like you hear these horror stories, people like, I got the closing and my closing costs were double. That should never, ever, ever happen. Or they were asking me for something the day before. That should never, ever, ever happen. And that's not that's the loan officer's fault.
Right.
Now, was there rare occasions where something pops up? Yeah, there's no way around it. It's unfortunately, we all have to follow the same guidelines of the mom and pop-up lending, which is, Fannie and Freddie. Non-QM products are products that were around back in the 2000s, 5, 6, and 7, and 8, when, you had guys that were, if you had a heartbeat and they could write your name, you were getting a house.
Right, yeah.
So they're starting to come back into the industry, but we all have guidelines that we have to work with. And I think if you can communicate the guidelines, or shouldn't I say the guidelines, but the needs that we need to do to get you from point A of being a non-homeowner to point B of being a homeowner, and you can do that in an efficient way, in a way that's not, harsh or causing stress, then I think it's a pretty easy process.
Yeah.
People shouldn't come out of buying a home saying, oh my God, that was so stressful.
Yeah.
They're either working with the wrong people. And there are a lot of those out there. We all have those in every.
And sometimes they're just inexperienced. They're on their way. They just don't have all the answers.
They don't have all the answers, and no one's there to hold their hand.
We all got to learn someplace, but
exactly,
you don't want to be the person.
Exactly. So I think communication is just a big thing in hiring anyone for any business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I think if we all at the school and just had the ability to, one, learn how to communicate, and two, learn how to write. Yeah. That's 99% of any, unless you're going to be a doctor. Right?
Yeah. And ChatGPT can only help so much, but you got to use the tools.
You do.
You got to use the tools.
I wrote something that was sent out about 2 weeks ago, and I had sent it to someone else. I always like to send it to somebody else that's not involved to kind of second set of eyes on it. And she sent it back to me. She said, I put it through GPT, and I asked it to dumb it down. I was like, okay.
Well, that's so funny. Sometimes I tell Chat to those exact words to dumb it down. Or I'll say, I just need this on a 9th grade level. It's great.
And it works.
Yeah, you have to utilize all that. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, I use ChatGPT probably 100 times a day. Like it's actually my assistant, where I need sometimes I need a bunch of key phrases and brackets. So I used to do that manual.
Yeah.
And that's just to put this in brackets.
We're using it more and more. I don't think I use it 100 times a day, but I certainly use it a lot. But it's another tool in our toolbox.
Yeah, it's not even for content creation. It's for it's to do certain tasks, which is great. I mean, I think where it really benefits, and I think you fall in line with this too. You're the person who I'm talking about too, and myself, where you get really motivated people. But sometimes, look, we're not good at everything. Entrepreneurs sometimes, and people are doing their own thing. We're not always the best students for a reason, but we had this motivation, this goal. We're goal oriented, and it just lets me break through barriers that I can just go 100 miles an hour now. Like writing something is not going to take me 4 hours, where it might only take me an hour now, which is a huge help. I'm looking for, I love it all, man. I embrace it all.
Anything that can kind of shorten the amount of time that I have to spend on it is invaluable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great way to
going back to the team. One thing that I'm at the process where I might bring somebody on, and one of the prerequisites are going to be, are you willing to go in front of the camera?
Yeah.
Sure. I think that's an important part. Like I've been telling my clients, when you hire someone, they don't have to be great at it. They just have to be willing to put themselves out there and get better at it, and even on social media, I saw one of my clients' employees post something on LinkedIn, young kid, 20, 23, 24. And it was an amazing post. Like he looked like, it was very thought-provoking. It wasn't too ChatGPT-ish, although it may have been run, which is fine. But it was, so many people just want to. I think as an employee, you have to almost act like a business owner nowadays, because you never know when you need a new job, and you just work on that personal brand. I mean, it's
definitely a different world than when you and I grew up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to be versatile. You need to be flexible. You need to be able to kind of step up for whatever's needed.
Yeah.
And in this environment, whether it's this media or my world,
right.
We're always, pushing the boundaries and learning new.
Sure. Look, you had a TV show. I mean, like you didn't have to do that 20. I mean, I was talking to an old school contractor, retired. He's happy he's out of it, and he was like, "Yeah, back in the day, he just started a business and
put up some flyers.
Yeah, you put you had your business name start with an A, so you show up first in the yellow pages. You mail out something, and not that it was easy, but it less complicated. You didn't have to be better at marketing than you are at your
slower back then too.
Yeah.
Right. So you didn't have a cell phone. You didn't have the pager. You didn't have,
right.
So if somebody got back to you 2 days later, it was okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you're, 2 hours, where the hell were you?
Yeah, exactly.
We're moving at a little bit different pace, but it's good.
It's fun. It keeps you young.
It keeps you young.
Yeah. I mean, if you stop learning, you start dying, I think. Where do you see the future the next 10 years with you're probably, you might start thinking about retirement.
Yeah. I mean,
but what about the industry even too? Yourself and the industry?
I mean, I think the industry, you're going to continue to see, like every industry, I think you're going to continue to see technology become a bigger piece of it. Mm-hmm. Will there be a day when there won't be a flesh and blood person there to help you get a mortgage? I can't say no.
Right.
But I don't think it'll be in my lifetime.
Right. I think we're going to ride a lot of this stuff out.
But again, going back to the why, right? Technology or humans, regardless of the generation, I think 100% across the board, they all want to have someone to call.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Especially for what you do.
Well, I mean, it's on a platform yesterday that I've spent way too many hours on, and I still can't quite figure it out. And there's no phone number to call you.
Right. Yeah.
Someone, right? So that's the first thing that gets my blood pressure going. And through what would have probably taken a 4-minute phone call, it took me about 3 hours of chatting, going back and forth. And
yeah.
Oh man. We're still needed as humans.
No, you aren't. And I think it's important to whatever business you have is to seek out the people who aren't do-it-yourselfers. I'm a do-it-yourselfer. I'm not going to buy a house or try to get a mortgage of my own. But if I'm desperate, I'll paint a hallway. You know what I mean. But if you're a painter, you're looking for people who will not paint their own baby's room. Like there's enough of those people out there. There's a
lot of those people.
I don't think people realize. I got goosebumps. Look, literally, because there's a lot of people with money who are willing to spend it, and they just want value. They're not price conscious. They're value conscious. I always laugh, people like on my town page, how come we don't have a Whole Foods? I say, because we're all cheap here. You know what I mean? Like there's no Whole Foods in East Brunswick, because the first thing you pose, I'm looking for a contractor that's reasonable. The first question isn't, I'm looking for a contractor that's good or experienced, it's reasonable. So, that's when you have, but there's enough people who I think, for the next 20, 30, 40 years, they're going to want value.
They're going to want value. They're going to want value, and they're going to want that personal touch.
Yeah.
There's no, like I said, the example of yesterday. Yeah, I would have given anything. Yeah, I would have written a check for $300 to have somebody get on the phone with me for 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
Because it would have saved me the 3 hours. 3 hours of trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I think that practice is going to hold through for at least through until I'm old.
Oh yeah, I think longer than we think, because do you listen to Gary Vee at all?
I do.
Market. And he always brings up the tractor. When they came up with the tractor, a lot of people lost a lot. That was like 90% of the jobs, but people adjust. You know what I mean? And I think somebody with your mindset, and I reinvented myself recently where, hey, if I can't do that, I'll just figure something else to do. I don't have to do this. Yeah. I don't have to do market. I'll figure something else to do. And I'll love it just as much.
I love the reinvent, right?
Yeah.
So many of us get kind of caught, including myself. You get caught in this rut of, okay, this is who you are. These are your parameters.
Right.
And this is your safe space.
Dangerous.
That's a dangerous place. I'm actually, admittedly, coming out of a space like that.
Yeah.
Now.
Right.
And I realized it a few months, actually probably about a year ago, and kind of started, you do what you normally do as a human, you beat the shit.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? You get down on yourself. And then one day you kind of wake up and you say, I can't get down on myself much more. So now I've got to kind of reinvent and figure out a way to happen. And that's, I mean, personally, and I'm sharing that with it, that's personally where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm excited to see where it goes.
Oh, yeah.
See what's going to happen.
Well, we talked about it before. You're a curious person by nature. And when you're curious, it's I think that's where the opportunities come. I was somewhat not forced to reinvent myself, but I was, because of the COVID and the lockdown, I had to make sure this never happened again. You know what I mean? Where I had no business with my previous business, but although the whole process was fun, like I felt alive every time I woke up, because I mean, for some people when their back's against the wall, that's when they get excited. You know, that's when things are fun and see what you could do. And it's
most people, and I know that's a really broad stroke, but people like yourself, like myself, that are kind of open-minded to the fact of, you know, being able to expose yourself and fall forward and not have that vulnerability or expose that vulnerability, I should say,
right?
Not have it. But I think once we go through that and you experience it, right, it's kind of neat to be pushed against the wall.
No, it is.
Like, what's the next, like, I'm excited about my next 5 years. Like, I truly am. I think my last 2 years were, I don't want to say they were a season of learning, right?
Right.
Learning what I was doing right, what I was doing wrong. But my next 5, like, I'm going to blow the doors off this thing.
Yeah, because
and believe me, you know, we all got knocked out, and
yeah,
it hurts physically, it hurts mentally, it hurts financially, it hurts.
Yeah, especially you have kids.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think life is fun. I think we're here for a blank.
Yeah.
And you got to do is who's the guy from Silence of the Lamb? I love his quote. You know.
That was a great.
None of us are getting out of here alive, so screw it.
Yeah.
Let's do what you.
Something else Gary talks about a lot. Yeah.
So I think that's just a really.
And how lucky were we, like, being born in the United States, where we can kind of, you know, it's up to you, kind of.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want to hear that, but it's up to you.
It hurts me when and I mean that, it like definitely hurts me when I see people talk down about the country they live in. I think that's just disgraceful. If you don't like it, you're leave.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you know,
where else are you going to do better?
Where else are you going to do better?
Yeah,
you can go there. But not even the country. What about the generation that we grew up, right?
Right.
Oh, we were kids in the 70s, in the 80s, right? How much fun was that? In the 90s, I mean,
God,
come on, you couldn't.
it was.
That was amazing times.
You had to figure out things yourself, because you couldn't call home to ask permission, so you had to make those decisions yourself. And as much as we try to raise our kids the right way, technology and situations won't allow it. I noticed that years ago when I worked for somebody. This was when everybody had a cell phone, and I was working at a photography studio. And a grown adult, like 35, 40 years old, had to pick out a frame for their portraits. I remember picking up the phone and asking him, "Mom, should I get gold or silver?" And I thought it was the most ridiculous. It's hanging like that was the generation, you know, that at that time I think things made a shift. But yeah.
Look at the generation now. You have 17-year-olds. I have a 17-year-old. They can't go anywhere without putting it on Google Maps.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, exactly. My kids don't even want to drive. They want to take Ubers.
Okay.
I got sons.
But I mean, like, they can't go anywhere without Waze or Google Maps. And it's you know, I think, and I kind of can figure things out. But
I'm an advocate for Generation X and baby boomers. I think we're going to be missed someday, and we're going to pat ourselves on the back. But we're definitely going to be. There's definitely going to be a big shoes to fill.
So and the question becomes, you know, did our parents say the same thing when they were?
Of course they did. Yeah, of course they did.
It's a circle.
Yeah, but this time it's true. So
I like that.
I think we can wrap it up here. Do you have any advice? Anybody who's kind of going to jump into your industry or anything like that?
Yeah, listen, I've been doing it 25 years. I still love it. I still wake up every day excited. You know, I'm not going to kid you and tell you there are days I wake up and be like, what the hell am I doing? But I wouldn't be human if I didn't say that. I'd be lying to you. But I think it's a great industry. I think it's a great career. And, you know, where it's going to be in the next 30 or 40 years, you know, I still think there's going to be a human there. You're going to have
absolutely
2 feet and and a voice.
Yeah.
The body.
Yeah.
But it's been a great experience. I've met a lot of really great folks, and I've had a lot of really great experiences from doing what I do.
Great. Yeah.
And made a lot of...
And it gave you a good life.
Yeah, it gave me a good life, and I made a lot of great friends out of it. So
yeah, that's awesome.
It's something that I don't really have a regret on.
And where can everybody find you? Where I'll have all your information for you.
You can certainly just Google Glenn Davis Mortgage or Benchmark Lending, Glenn Davis Benchmark Lending.
Yeah, it'll pop right up.
It's 609-460-9100.
And I'll have all your information for everybody to see.
I was saying that because I was driving up 18. I was like, Crazy Eddie's used to be there. Yeah.
Funny, yeah, of course.
But yeah, I'm pretty easy to find out. If you can Google, you'll find
Great.
us.
And I'll have all your information for everybody.
Appreciate it.
Great. Great. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you having me here.
Let's go grab some pizza.
Let's do it.
All right.